Good. It's been another wonderful day for us to come together on this virtual platform. We thank the Almighty God for His love, His mercies endures forever in our life. We thank Him for the gift of life given to us on this earth, and we will always live to glorify His holy name. Good. In the person of Otukumi Michael, also known as Mickey, I welcome you all on this virtual platform. As you can see it on the screen, what we have is subjects, information and communication technology. And our topic for today is types of booting. Don't forget, in our previous lesson, we started with booting. We came out with the definition of booting. We also came out with the booting processes, as you saw it in our previous lesson. Today we want to look at the types of booting. But before we continue, let's look at our learning objectives. Good. Now, these are the learning objectives. By the end of the lesson, the student will be able to achieve the following. 1. Define warm booting and cold booting and their differences. Don't forget that in our previous lesson, we came up with a definition of booting. And we said that booting is the process of loading a copy of the operating system into the memory of the computer. The other day, we were trying to come up with the main reason why the operating system is being loaded into the computer's memory. And if you could remember, we said that the memory becomes the first place where data and instructions are always placed before processing activities takes place. Objectives 2. Reasons needed to perform warm booting. Why we need to perform warm booting. Objective 3. We also need to come out with the causes of system failure. Causes of system failure. Students, viewers, lovely kids, these are the learning objectives as far as the types of booting is concerned in today's lesson. Good. Now, let's move on to our next slide. Wow. Now, this is what we have in our next slide. Types of booting process. Types of booting process. Don't forget that we said booting is the process of loading an operating system into the memory of the computer. Now, booting process is made up of 2 types. We said 1, we have what we called the cold booting. Cold booting. So you can repeat after me. Cold booting. When we say cold booting, what is it? Cold booting is the initial process of starting up the computer system by pressing the start button. That becomes cold booting. the initial process, the first stage, where we need to press on the power button of the system unit as well as the monitor. Because when you press on the power button of the system unit, the operating system, as we said earlier on in our previous lesson, will be loaded into the memory of the computer so that there will be a graphical user interface to enable the user to be able to communicate with the computer system, because icons will be displayed, applications will be stored on the machine. Therefore, we can start our installation process and run all those applications on the machine so that we can communicate with the machine. So the first process of starting up the computer system by pressing the power button, that is the start button of the system unit, to allow booting takes place. Good. Now, before you can do that, what you have to do is to check cable connection, making sure that all those connections are well fixed before you can press the power button of the system unit. Good. Let's move on. Good. Warm booting. What is warm booting? We just discussed cold booting. Now, when we say warm booting is the process of restarting the computer either by pressing the restart button or using Ctrl plus Alt plus Delete keys on the keyboard. Now, these are keys command combinations on the keyboard. So you press them in that successive manner. You don't remove your hand. It's Ctrl plus Alt plus Delete. It's a combination key. So you put the three together, it will restart the system for you. Warm booting is generally done when system stops responding or system updates requires system to be restarted for the updates to take place or to take effect. I am taking the reading again. Warm booting is generally done when system stops responding or system updates requires system to be restarted for the updates to take place or to take effect. What it means is that with the warm booting, the machine is on already. Booting has taken place. We are now on the desktop. So over here, we are not going to check for cable connections. We are not going to think about any fixing of the socket and any other component that needs to be connected. But we only consider the combination keys that will help us to restart the machine by reloading the operating system so that files can copy correctly into the memory of the computer. Warm booting is generally done when system stops responding. So when your system is not responding correctly, That is where you can use the combination key on the keyboard to reload the operating system, to restart the machine. Or system update requires system to be restarted. Now, when we say update becomes a new, improved or fixed software which replaces older versions of the same software. We are not performing uninstallation or uninstall, no. We are not trying to uninstall the program that has been installed on the machine. But what we have to do is to update so that a new, improved or fixed software replaces the older versions of the same software. So we try to update so that we can get the up to date with the latest drivers, system utilities and system software securities. That is the meaning of update. Let me repeat the update again, and I want you to write something down because it is not in the slides as you see it on the screen. When we say update, an update is a new, improved or fixed software which replaces older versions of the same software. That becomes updates. The software is on it. We perform updates so that we can get latest drivers, latest system utilities, and system security softwares. That becomes system updates. So, warm booting is the process whereby the combination keys on the keyboard are being used to reload the operating system into the memory of the computer without you not switching the machine off. Without you not switching the machine off. That becomes warm booting. With a cold booting, the machine was off and you are just trying to boot the machine. You are just trying to press the power button so that we can get to the desktop. But this time around with the warm booting, we are on the desktop already. We are already there. What we have to do, if the machine is not responding correctly, we need to reboot the system so we don't turn the machine off when we are doing warm booting, as it is done in the cold booting. Good. I believe you have written something down. All right. Let's continue with what we have. More light on the cold booting. Cold booting refers to starting a computer when it is in off state, as I said earlier on. When it is in off state, by pressing the power button. Initially, the microprocessor is initialized, then ROM is read, and system boot process gets started. So you see, all these things will be what? Be in execution. That becomes cold booting. Good. Now, what do we have? Differences between cold booting and warm booting. This one is going to throw more light on what we have just discussed. Let's take the cold booting first. Cold booting. It occurs when a computer is turned on from a powerless state. I repeat again. It occurs when a computer is turned on from a powerless state, that is in its off state. There is no user around. No one is working on that particular machine. It is idle. It is just there. If you want to perform the code booting, what you have to do is to make sure all connections are well fixed. Then, what we have to do is to press on the power button of the system unit. It occurs when a computer is turned on from a powerless state, that is in its off state, lying idle. Warm booting. It occurs when an already running computer is reset. It occurs when an already running computer is reset, that is restarted. That becomes warm booting. With the warm booting, the machine won't be in its powerless state. We have gotten to the screen. We are working. And there was an interruption. So all the programs stop running. They stop responding. When it happens like that, what we have to do is to restart the machine. That process is what we call warm booting. We don't put the machine off. When you put the machine off and you start it again, that becomes cold booting. But when you try to use the combination key on the keyboard, then we have what we call warm booting. Good. Point 2. Cold booting do not affect data or software. I repeat, cold booting do not affect data or software. When we say data, data becomes the raw facts, the unprocessed facts. In our previous lesson, we said that data in its natural state is meaningless. It can be meaningful when processing activities takes place. When we say software, software becomes series of instructions given to the computer or the machine to perform a specific task. That becomes software. Good. With the warm booting, system may get damaged. With the warm booting, system may get damaged, may be destroyed in an attempt to restart the machine. Good. Cold booting is done regularly. Yes, that is true. Because when the machine is in its powerless state and no one is using it, we can still perform cold booting. But the warm booting is done occasionally. It doesn't occur. Good. How do we perform cold booting? Cold booting is done by pressing the power button of the computer system. Cold booting is done by pressing the power button of the computer system. How did we define a computer system? Or how did we define a computer? We said that a computer is an electronic device that accepts data as input process it into useful information, and store it for future use. When we talk about the computer system, we are talking about the basic functional parts that makes a complete computer, a complete machine for us to process our information, for us to perform our activities. All those components come together to work together so that we can get the end result when there is an input. How do we perform warm booting? It is done by pressing the reset button or using the combination key on the keyboard, that is Control plus Alt plus Delete keys command combination on the keyboard. You press them in that successive manner. As you are pressing, you don't remove your hand. It's Control plus the Alt plus the Delete key. It will reboot the machine. It will restart the machine to reload the operating system into the memory of the computer so that processing can take place. Good. Good. Now, what do we have on the screen? A question for you. I read. What are the reasons you would need to warm boot? What are the reasons you would need to warm boot? Don't forget that we said that booting is a term, it's a process whereby an operating system is loaded into the memory of the computer. He said we have the warm booting and cold booting. We said that the warm booting is done by pressing the combination key, and that is the Control plus the Alt plus the Delete key on the keyboard. The cold booting is done when you press the power button of the system unit. Good. Now, what are the reasons to warm boot a system? 1. When we have new hardware, software, or drivers being installed on the machine. That means that we need to reboot the system to be able to copy the files very well during the installation process. 2. When a system setting has been changed, when the setting of the machine has been changed, we also need to perform warm booting. 3. When an update has been installed, for example, the antivirus software, and when we say updates, an update is a new, improved, or fixed software which replaces older versions of the same software. This is the second time of coming out with this definition. It is not in the slide, so I want you to jot it down. I have repeated it again. An update is a new, improved, or fixed software which replaces older versions of the same software. Good. 4. When the computer has a problem that cannot be fixed, we need to reboot the system. These are the main reason why we need to perform warm booting. Good. Let's move on. Causes of computers failure to start. Causes of computers failure to start. What are some of the causes that will prevent our machine to boot? The causes of computer failure to boot up can be broken down into 4 categories. These are bad electrical connection. When we have bad electrical connection, the machine fails to boot. 2. Failure of the power supply. Failure of the power supply. When power is not flowing well, the system will not start. 3. Failure of the operating system. Loading into the memory of the computer, it will never let you get to the desktop. So when the operating system fails to load itself, copy itself into the memory of the computer, the machine fails to respond. 4. When we have hardware failure, it can be a memory problem, it can be a hard disk problem, it can be either the jumpers or those capacitors being mounted on the motherboard. So when there is a hardware failure, when we say hardware becomes the physical components of the computer system. The things that we can see, feel and touch, that becomes hardware. Monitor becomes a hardware part of the computer. The system unit is also another part of the hardware of the computer. Then we have the keyboard, we have the mouse. All these are the physical components of the machine, of the computer system. So when there is a hardware failure, the machine fails to start. Good. Let's move on and see what we have for you. Wow. The turn off buttons of the computer. These are some of the buttons that we should know and understand and know how to use them whenever we are using our computer system. So the first button, as it has been displayed on the screen, is the standby. The standby. When we say standby, how do you understand standby? The turn off. And then the last one, we have the restart. Now let's look at the good. Now, explanation to the buttons. The standby mode, the standby button, it helps to conserve power when a computer or electric device is not in use without putting it off. That becomes the use of the standby button. It conserves power when a computer or electric device is not in use. Just like the UPS. 2. The power button. The power button is a round or square button that powers an electric device on and off of the computer. What does this one tell you? That means that the power button can be used to turn on the machine and turn off the machine at the same time. So over here, the power button performs 2 functions. We use it to turn on the machine and also turn off the computer system. That becomes the function of the power button. The restart button. The restart button, also known as the switch, it allows computer users to reset the computer. It allows computer users to reset the computer, as in to restart the computer. So the restart button allows users to perform what we call the warm booting. The warm booting. So that is the function of the restart button. It allows the user to perform warm booting without putting the machine off. That becomes the function of the restart button. Good. Let's continue. Good. What do we have? Evaluation. Students, that is a steady question for you. Question 1. Explain the procedure you would follow before you start a computer. Question 2. Define the term booting as used with reference to computers. Question 3. Differentiate between warm booting and cold booting. Question 4. Suggest any 2 reasons as to why a computer has to be restarted. Question 5. Write the abbreviations POR and POST in full. 6. Explain the boot process a computer follows when starting. 7. Mention any 2 devices from which a computer can boot. And lastly, suggest 3 effects of booting a computer. Good. Students, viewers, lovely kids, that is the end of today's lesson. We thank God for His strength. We thank Him for piloting our steps. Take your study serious once again, and let's see the glorious life that we are going to experience in our world. Until I come your way next time, bye for now.